Hello, and welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today is December 1st, 2020. This horrible year is almost over, and today we'll be covering government and social media.
The end of the year is not going to bring anything different than the rest of the year.
You
It's
don't know
true.
that. It could get much worse.
It probably will get much
I'm
worse.
sporting the nice level 1 face mask, you see. I'm not infectious though.
When you need to, raid your neighborhood for supplies, make sure you wear that so the surveillance people can't see you.
For those of you who have certain mental problems where you don't understand basic human courtesy and interaction, that's why you do that. Even if you don't believe in it, basic human courtesy.
Like wearing pants.
So, are we doing the...
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Linode. All of the news in December is brought to you by Linode because December is literally Devember. Now, I've got some bad news. If you haven't gotten started on Devember, your procrastination is catching up with you. Devember is December. I mean, we started early. We started in like October because Linode was willing to sponsor that. But Linode has you covered. There's a $100 coupon below. You can get $100 of Linode credits right now, today, through Level 1 to spool up whatever kind of web development awesomeness that you have planned, whether that's I don't know, the next WebGL, something that's amazing, or you just want to use the object storage, or you want to spin up, a WordPress site. Don't spin up a WordPress site. Just, pick something else. Pick something that's more not.
Literally any other kind of website.
Hugo. Take a look at Hugo. It's kind of a new thing. It's pretty neat. I don't know. Take a look at that. There's a lot of tutorials on Linode. Thank you, Linode, for sponsoring this episode of the video. Check that credit out below. Sign up on us. It works really well. And on with the news.
So, what may be the end of a tradition of starting government news sections with the FCC? I feel like we might not have a reason to after today, but we do have 3 stories to see us off in grand fashion. The first one is a little bit mundane. I don't think very many people care about this, and I kind of agree with this because people are horrible.
Yes.
And no one wants to put up with this.
Yeah. The FCC is maintaining its ban on mobile phone voice calls during flights. Why? A huge number of people are crammed into an aluminum straw. Do you really want the person next to you yelling into their phone?
Imagine it's an 80-year-old man, and he is just talking the filthiest stuff that you've ever heard. Like he's getting into, like latex and water sports and like just really BSDM, and he's going into hard detail. Do you want to sit there for hours listening to that?
No.
If his knee is touching yours and you got to listen to that, no.
I mean, it's already really terrible if you're, on a conference call that has a lot of latency. And that airplane connection, it's going to have a lot of latency.
You have to keep repeating the sexy parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I know it's an inconvenience for some people, but, you can tune out for the time it takes to fly in the sky can. Now, the next one is maybe no surprise. I think probably at the behest of the Trump administration and the outgoing portions of the FCC, they're saying, let's get as much as we can done in the time allotted to us. Do you think this will stand come February?
It might. Probably not.
I don't know. It does seem like there's a little bit of bipartisan support here.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't... They actually have put out more... Like, the first time they did this, it was kind of like, okay, where's the evidence? And now it's like, okay, there is maybe something to this that needs to be investigated.
Anyway, it's another entry on the old blacklist, and not a surprise.
ZTE Corp's designation as a security threat has been affirmed by the U.S. FCC. So if you're going to buy gear for your 5G network or your, continent-to-continent corporate infrastructure, you might want to double-check ZTE as one of your suppliers.
And you might want to put a date of January 19th into your calendar right now. And you might ask, what am I putting in to my calendar for January 19th? Well, perhaps a purchase of some champagne or some other celebratory liquid or device,
Item.
whatever it is that you do to mark a momentous occasion that you don't want to forget.
I'll bring some M&Ms to the Level 1 News.
How many M&Ms will you commit to right now?
Probably one of the small bags.
All right. And what are we celebrating? Well,
FCC Chairman Ajit Pai will step down on January 20th. Bye, Mr. Ajit Pai. Something, something, whiskey and rye.
Yeah, we actually used that for the last
We
one.
did.
So we can't use that one again.
Damn
We
it.
got an official date though now.
We jumped the gun on it.
Ding dong, the witch is dead is also appropriate.
I think we made the same joke last time too. 'Cause it wasn't. We talked about this last week or the week before, but it wasn't confirmed. It was just, yeah, it's obvious. But we raised the question. We'll raise it again. How long before he has one of the top offices in the Verizon building?
Oh, it's going to be something ridiculous. Just utterly ridiculous. Like, yeah, the damage that you've done to help this is just lasting, and it's incredible. Shareholders, thank you the world over.
I bet the Pi children will have an Xbox and a PS5.
Wow.
We talked about this story before, and we all were horrified by it, and we all recognized how bad it was. But what we didn't know at the time was the scope, and it's been investigated a little bit more, and now we know.
IRS could search warrantless location database over 10,000 times. Motherboard obtained IRS documents describing the sale of a database of smartphone movements. It's not really, they didn't really buy a database. They bought access to a database. They could do 12,000 searches. They have 12,000 searches that they can do on that database on a yearly basis. And so they probably have.
I think it says could. This is a weird headline. I think they did. I think they confirmed 10,000. This was Ventel.
Yeah.
And that is the company that lets you track. So they put their little evil worm in various SDKs that go into apps, and then they harvest all that data. They sell it to the government, as well as other people.
Now, the funny thing here is Ron Wyden's office pointed out that, you know, even if you're buying access to a database like this, you can't really do an end run around the Fourth Amendment because you're aggregating a lot of data. It's like you could buy one piece of data, and maybe that's not a warrantless search, but when you've got access to this much data, and you can identify an individual, then maybe that does constitute a search. The Supreme Court ruled on that, according to Ron Wyden's office, a while ago. So they keep asking the IRS to explain their legal rationale for doing this, and the answer seems to be, well, we thought we could get away with it.
And what kind of makes it worse too is it's like they didn't just pay to have it. They're paying for like each individual like thing. So it's like you're also wasting money while you do this. It makes it worse.
But Krista, when you are running an extortion business, pro criminal tip, you lose money to get money from the people who borrowed money, right? So you'll spend more money to punish someone who doesn't pay, because in the long run, that's better because it scares the other people into paying.
Unless you're Microsoft or Amazon, in which case they just laugh because it's like, what are you going to do? Outspend us?
Well, I'm sure they have an alternative arrangement.
So the IRS is like, let me go after this person who has no money. Break a few fingers.
So, yeah.
Listen, the interest rate is outrunning the growth of our economy at this point. I don't know how we're ever going to catch up.
Oh, we're never paying that debt. But people make that argument. It's like, well, we're never going to pay it, so let's just make more of it. And it's like, I think it'll be worse. I don't know. And so we had, during the election, aside from all the other stuff that happened during the election, the gig economy was, I guess it was helped. It depends on which side of the aisle you stand on, I guess. But Lyft and Uber kind of won with their California case. Because it was like, oh...
They didn't win everything, but yeah, they won a lot.
They won the whole, like, you're not an employee thing.
Yeah.
You are not our employee. You are a contract worker. And so now they're moving further. I could see this. This could be bad for, like, a startup company.
Yeah.
Just, they'll be like, oh, yeah, come and work for us, and we're going to give you all this beautiful stock. And you're going to be like, oh, my God, the stock's worth so much. And then you get paid, and then 6 months later, because there'll be freezes on this, when those freezes come off, your stock is now worth 1/10 of what it was. That's the danger here.
The FCC proposes rules for giving gig workers equity. So if you're going to basically give workers equity, what are the rules that you have to follow? One of them is basically you can't separate the company from its assets. One of the popular tricks to do is to give everybody equity in the company, but no say so. And so the company will sell off all of its assets, but the company that remains is the one that you have equity in, and you had no say-so in the transfer of the assets or getting, money from the assets or anything else. So you have nothing. And that's a perfectly acceptable legal maneuver currently. The SEC is trying to say, well, let's maybe not do it that way.
But it could be good. Maybe not now. If you were working for Uber or Lyft and you got shares before the IPO, you'd probably make a lot of money.
See, I think the whole solution to the Uber Lyft problem is to basically franchise and have somebody that knows what they're doing, that can, you know, deal with more transient workers kind of on a local basis and give them a bigger cut.
But what you're probably giving up there is that mountain of data.
Yeah.
I guess you could require your franchisees to send that back, but then it's just more people in on the scam.
Yeah, I mean, it does end up being a pyramid scheme, but pyramid schemes are tried and true in the U.S. economy. They work so well.
Every ride, the rider is just harassing you. It's like, you got to start doing this.
Yeah.
You got to join my circle of drivers.
Sensi.
You get a free $10 gift certificate if you sign up now.
It's like Little Caesars delivery, basically.
Do they do delivery now?
You get a free $5, free $5 pizza every Friday.
Did they just start doing that?
No.
I thought they were always pickup.
No. It's like the driver can have like a free meal coupon or whatever.
Oh, if you do like an Uber Eats type of deal. Oh, okay.
I don't know who's paying for that or if that's just something they're doing, but you know, it's a thing.
Trying to get people to order pizza right now.
Yeah, it's probably like Uber Eats or they did some kind of promotion. Now, we're going into the Christmas season, and assuming that you get to see your family for Christmas.
No.
And there may or may not be a tree. There may or may not be gifts under the tree. Perhaps you're too destitute to buy gifts. But let's say if this were a normal Christmas.
You'll be on store.level1text.com.
But what you won't find on store.level1text.com that you probably will find under a lot of trees this year is Internet of Things devices, as they just get more and more popular.
It's hard to believe, but Congress just approved an IoT security law, and it totally doesn't suck. Now, this is amazing. The Register is saying that a U.S. law totally doesn't suck. That's actually genuinely impressive. The IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act was introduced. It does a lot of really good things. The main thing that it does is it tells the National Institute of Standards and Technology to come up with something that's sane for handling Internet of Things devices, things like credential updates, handling patches, handling security, just a basic, very, very basic laundry list of stuff that's needed for things that are going to be on the internet, because that forgotten smart toaster from 3 years ago, it's already mining Bitcoin for somebody in like East Estonia.
Now, you might be thinking, that's crazy. I mean, think about all the devices that are already out there, and think about who's the Chinese kid?
Heesung?
Heesung. I thought it was Heesung.
Oh, Heesung, yeah, maybe.
You can't rename him at this point. You might be thinking, Heesung, is he doomed? What's he going to do for money after this? Well, this only impacts companies that are doing things with the government. So they're not going to stop you from selling bad Internet of Things devices. But if you do business with the government, you have to meet this standard. So hopefully there'll be something on the box that's like, FDA approved.
It's like the early days of the Underwriters lab, where it's like, oh, you definitely want to get the power strip that's UL listed because it won't burn your house down. And then later it's like, oh, all power strips have to be UL listed.
That's not true. I've been on Amazon, and it's like one of the Amazon questions, is this UL listed? No. Why are you selling it? So yeah, that'll be interesting, and hopefully it's not required, but it becomes one of those things where if you don't have it, people are smart enough not to buy your stuff. Although people are still buying those Chinese electronics.
So they really are.
Who knows?
All just based on cost.
I got this 43-inch TV, but it's literally stealing my bank account.
Yeah.
I can see it on the screen. It's trying different PIN numbers.
Well, with the UL listed stuff, there is such a good reason to pay a little bit more. And I think Internet of Things falls into that same category.
It's funny though, because the example of burning your house down, like you import some cheap stuff from China, it's going to come with lithium-ion batteries that can't wait to burn your house down. So I mean, it kind of.
But having your identity stolen by the Chinese, maybe not on the same level of having your house burned down, but I still feel like
visceral.
It's worth more. Pay a little more. Now, when it comes to the big tech companies, of course, this year has been a free-for-all for attacking them, but I don't think we've really gotten into this. Is more of a stalking phase. I think the governments, they're creeping around, they're hunkered down in the tall grass, and big tech companies, they know they're there, but they don't know when they're coming. And the UK has taken one more very tentative stalking step toward the final kill.
UK to set up pro-competition regulator to put limits on big tech. In theory, this sounds really interesting, but I don't know how they're going to execute on this in any way that makes any logical sense.
And in fact, they gave no details.
Yeah, so, I mean, they kind of, I've read about this before and in some other contexts, and some of the EU regulators kind of hint at, like, you know, a Craigslist type thing where you don't want to monopolize, like, selling stuff online. It was like, okay, that sounds good. But how does that translate into, you know, we need an EU competitive version of, say, Gmail, or we need an EU competitive version of whatever. The business model is literally to get your personal information, mine it, and sell it. The business model doesn't work if you follow all the EU regulations.
Well, maybe the answer is to just make the taxpayers pay for it, which seems to be one of the directions they're taking when it comes to the whole security infrastructure for the networks kind of thing, especially when it comes to the phones. Because, hey, you can't have Huawei anymore. What happens then? Well, the other companies that are left behind, in this case Nokia and Ericsson, they don't really have to compete very much, do they? And what happens then? The ISP situation in the United States. That's what happens then. So what do you do to fight it? Well, they're going to try.
Britain commits $333 million U.S. to help carriers replace Huawei 5G equipment. Chinese telecom firm is set to be banned from the country's next-generation networks by 2027 due to security concerns. Has anybody let Britain know how fast technology moves? I mean, they might as well be banning it by the year 2700.
Has anybody let them know that Great Britain might not exist by 2027?
They're like 7 years. That's forever.
Yeah, that seems really dumb.
You know what that island's going to be called in 2027? Amazon Island.
Buys it.
Where did you take your vacation in 2022? Oh, the Amazon warehouse. It used to be known as the British Isles.
What happens to the Queen in that scenario?
It's like the Amazon convenience store where you can go in and just pick up whatever you want and walk out with it, and it just charges you for it. Amazon Island is like that, but for like war crime type stuff. So you just go in and you murder people or whatever, you rape and pillage, and then when you go home, they send you a bill.
So what you're saying is HBO series Westworld is the ultimate conclusion of where Jeff Bezos is headed.
Except with real refugees and not robots. That's what we're looking at.
Dark.
Yeah. So Europe also, in another move that is probably a good one and hopefully won't backfire in some terrible way, has taken a step towards something that we tried to do during the election and got some movement on: right to repair.
European Parliament vote takes another big step toward right to repair rules. The EU continues to head toward better repair rules. It seems to be that they're taking the playbook just straight away. Like, they're looking at just Apple stuff. It's like, okay, what do we need to do to make Apple make stuff that's easier to repair? But believe it or not, they need to look past just making stuff easy to repair for Apple. There's a lot of stuff that could be done with laptop design to make things really easy to repair. Like, for one, there's a couple of really minor design changes, like for the Surface Book, that Microsoft could have done to make it way more repairable. And that needs to be as in part of, like, the design phase. Like, you know how they send devices off to the FCC to be certified, and the FCC has early access to devices to make sure there's no radio interference or anything like that? There should be an opportunity for the government regulators to offer commentary on, hey, why didn't you do this? They don't necessarily have to make any changes, but then if they bring charges later to say, no, I think you reasonably could have done something different here, then maybe that would be a finable something.
Yeah. I mean, Apple is maybe one of the worst.
Yeah.
So, if you make a rule that encompasses all the garbage that Apple does, you're probably going to catch almost everybody.
Did you see the video of the guy that bought the two new, I think it was the iPhone 11 or iPhone 12, it was brand new, bought two of them, a red one and a blue one. And he took them both apart and swapped the components from the red one to the blue one. And he swapped the camera and some other stuff. And in so doing, the camera, when he swapped it, it would kind of work, but then it would glitch out in weird ways. Like, it would draw lines in it, and, like, brightness didn't work and HDR didn't work. But it was the same model phone and the same camera, and the PCBs were labeled the same. And then just to make sure he didn't break anything, he swapped the cameras back, and then it worked fine individually in each other phone. So there's something that Apple has done to make the replacement parts flaky. even though they're perfectly compatible with one another.
That's not surprising at all, and I think that is why they get the spotlight.
That level of insanity is just, I mean, that's evil. That's hideously evil. Why would you do that?
We don't
Why
have the
would you
time
do
to do
that?
that kind of design work.
You know damn
When they
well
do
why.
that.
I'm sorry, Chris. I talked over you. What'd you say?
No, we talked over each other. I was just saying, like, they're probably like, oh, we can't, it's not cost effective to put that much design thought into, making replaceable parts. But then they put all that design thought into that particular use case that's so small. Like,
yeah, it's like you literally swapped an identical camera module from one phone to the other, and it doesn't fail. It doesn't pop up and say, hey, this part isn't compatible. It literally becomes glitchy. That's hideously evil. That has to be intentionally done that way.
Also, over the pond, but no longer part. We're not talking about the UK anymore. We used to lump them together, but now they're apart. Is France. And we've been talking about this one for some time. Now,
Things have gotten weird in France in a lot of ways.
This was decided quite a while ago, but it's been just sort of like held up in court since then. And obviously, it's been a weird year. They probably haven't spent a lot of time thinking about this. But they're saying now, hey, look, time's up. We gave you this long. We gave you time to fight this. But come December, we're doing it.
France orders tech giants to pay digital tax. France last year applied a 3% levy on revenue from digital services earned in France, but suspended collection of the tax. And what Ryan alluded to, they are no longer suspending collection of the tax. It's time. There's also been some riots in France and some changes toward perhaps a more authoritarian stance. So,
Vive la revolution.
Some people predicted that this whole thing would lead to that and lead to an expansion of power.
Who could that have been? I love it when we get stuff right.
I don't think we can claim that one. There's a lot of people that made that soon. But speaking of this thing that we're living in, I'm talking about the pandemic, of course. That's the big thing that shapes all of our lives at the moment. One thing that has been, when it comes to spectacular failures in 2020, now I think we got to give the gold trophy there to the U.S. election. I mean, that's a clear winner. But when it comes to number two, or maybe, at least in the top 10, it was the apps for the tracking.
Yeah, it's like we can use technology to solve the spread of a virus problem.
Is anybody using one?
Nope.
No, I don't know anybody that's using one. And are they even still running them? I know they canceled a couple of them.
I can't imagine that they would be effective for a variety of reasons.
I don't think they're running them. Well, and part of the reason they're not effective is because we get so much spam on our phones at all hours. Like, why would I add another spamming service?
Well, you say they're ineffective, but perhaps they're not effective at what you want them to do. But they are effective at something.
Australia's spy agencies caught collecting the app data from the thing, the app data, like the pandemic app data, I guess. And if you're like me, you're like, wait a minute, this story's a repeat from the other week. No, this is Australia. The other week was the U.S. So whatever we were doing in the U.S. to collect app data and patient data, it turns out the Australians were doing the same thing.
Now, the Australians, they have an excuse, the agencies. They said, yes, it's true. We did track the app collection data, but we weren't trying to. We track everything. Just so happened that was one of the things. So don't worry.
See, this is really bad because there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there right now, and most of them are terrible. But occasionally, a broken clock is right twice a day, and this is one of them because it's like, oh, that sounds like a nutball conspiracy. It's like, well, in this case, it's unfortunately actually happening.
Or you mean the one about how the government's trying to use this to crack down on dissent? Like in France?
And Hong Kong. A lot of that happening in Hong Kong.
You know who else really, really, really dislikes dissent? Like almost Jinping levels, but maybe one step back. It's the leaders in Russia.
Yeah.
And you know where a lot of dissent comes from these days? It's that filthy social media.
Russia wants to ban social media sites discriminating against Russian news outlets. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube are at a risk of getting blocked by Russia for, quote-unquote, discriminating against Russian news sites like Russia Today, RA Novosti, and Crimea 24.
Now, those sites do have an obvious political narrative that they follow. Although, so does most of the mainstream media in the U.S. and the rest of the world, I would guess.
And yet everybody on social media are morons. This is an impossible situation for the citizenry. How can you even function? Like, assuming that you weren't just a complete and terrible person, and you also weren't a moron, how would you even get anything reasonably approaching, actual news reporting?
You watch the Level 1 news, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though we're reporting the same stuff they are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So now they don't ban these places, but they, Twitter's got all that new stuff where it's like, this is disputed. If you try to like share one of their tweets, you might get a little pop up. It's like, I don't know.
Are you part of the problem? Did you know that you're liking racist propaganda? It's like, what?
And so, the Russian government's saying, listen, we're not going to let you operate in our country if you keep, just singling us out like this. So we'll see.
I don't know that. I'm not sure, but like I feel like at least with YouTube usually puts the information about like the source under almost all of them. So like I watched a video about a hermit who lived in Russia, and it was like, this is from a Russian news source. And then like I'll watch a video about something else, and it's like, this is from the BBC. This is a British news source, and like
I don't think
okay. Like,
I don't think that's what they're complaining about. We'll talk about it in social media, but Twitter has several new things. And one of them in particular is if you try to retweet stuff that comes from these guys, it tries to talk you out of it.
Oh, that's not new. They've been doing that for a while.
That's kind of new.
I think it's fairly new. They might have been testing it for a while.
I feel like I've seen that for a while. Like at least a month or two. Maybe I'm imagining it.
Maybe you're one of the secret, like, they use a Twitter tester. You're a Twitter power user.
I think initially it was election news, and now it's Russia Today and news sites like that. Because sometimes they'll run a story just to troll the U.S. so that like somebody in the U.S. is like, oh, look at this thing, and it was just something that was written to troll the U.S. It's not actually first
American
party information. Yeah.
I think they were pretty pro-Trump just because they knew that made a lot of people upset.
Yeah.
And it got that argument going. It's a pro move politically. You got to give it up to it. But, it kind of makes sense that you want to fight it in some way. I don't know what the answer is.
It says here on Dimitri's bio, who wrote this article, that he's never left Kiev. I don't understand how he can be reporting on what's happening in Georgia.
I don't think they're talking about Georgia. Are you talking about the state Georgia?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. India also has a little bit of a cybersecurity problem. Now, India, if you'll remember, another one of the great things that happened during 2020, a little bit of a almost hot war with China.
I do love the reports. Like you read using the Google Translate on some of the India language, Hindi language, whatever news sites for some of this stuff. Like the headline here on TechCrunch is India bans 43 more Chinese apps over cybersecurity concerns. But you read the native language version, and the translation is something like, "Oh, we got through auditing a bunch more apps. It's just more Chinese crap." It's like, oh, okay, we should ban these because these apps have no useful utility for Indian citizens.
This was it did 175 the first time. They got another 43. But there's an amazing statistic in here. Yeah, the top 500 apps in India, not a single Chinese app. How many of our top apps you think are Chinese?
At least 5 or 6.
That's got to be out of the 500.
Oh, probably more.
Yeah, a lot. And it's amazing. One of the big ones that the people are just crushed by, though, is PUBG.
Yeah, PUBG Mobile. It turns out it's doing a lot of really scary things. That's one of the ones, actually, you should look that up and look at what they found in the security audits. I expect that will make the rounds in security, like English language security circles too, because they'll probably do some of the same audits and uncover some of the same stuff. It's really pretty interesting, the stuff that they managed to cram into a mobile game, if those are true.
Yeah. Imagine how that's... Look, most people probably don't care about... It's like, I don't care about my privacy, but you're messing with my tick rate. I need to have that bandwidth. I got to use it to aim. Come on. Moving on to social media. Now, it is very common, and we will often do 2 dueling stories in a single news session. That's Facebook is censoring the right wing, and Facebook is censoring the left wing. And both sides get equally angry in the comments, which I always feel good about. I feel like if both sides hate you, then you're doing something right. But Now we have one that swings again to anti-right, it would seem, because of the election.
The Wrap says that Zuckerberg changed the Facebook algorithm to highlight CNN, the New York Times, etc. post-election. The goal was to showcase authoritative outlets and make hyper-partisan outlets like the Breitbart less prominent. Dun, 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 dun.
As reported by, wait for it, the New York Times. So yeah, this is no longer the case, or at least they say it's no longer the case. It was just right after the election. They were like, oh, people are going crazy. Let's kind of silence, the dangerous part and just have this nice, safe mainstream news. And everybody was happy with it. Now, apparently there are some people within Facebook who are like, they refer to it as the nicer news. And they want to go to that permanently. So we'll see.
But then,
wait, which one were you thinking we were going to jump to?
that one.
That was out of order. Let's go ahead. I'm rearranging the one tab. You got to defend for yourself.
But then the Solomon Islands are set to ban Facebook in the name of national unity. Why would they be banning Facebook in the name of national unity unless it's the algorithm?
I don't think it's the algorithm. I think it's, for example, this gentleman. Because one of the quotes, it was like, the lies that spread on social media can take a good, honest man and tear him down in no time at all. And I think that translates into, I don't want people knowing this kind of stuff about me. And Facebook, they're really getting information out there on Facebook. I don't care for it. Let's do away with it.
Scary.
Do you think there will be a time where, like, we'll look back on, like, the early 2000s as, like, remember when the internet, like, you could just look at anyone's internet. You could look at the internet stuff that was posted in Russia, or, like,
yeah,
like, will that be a thing?
Yeah, well,
will we all have our own little mini internets?
I think so. I think at least China is going to separate at some point, right?
That's really weird.
It seems like all the countries are trending that way now.
Whenever I do a search for China, all I find is like the Chinese section of It's a Small World from Disneyland. Like everything just looks so happy and amazing, and it's just all this singing. They're
promoting the new Mulan movie. I don't understand.
So anyway, yeah, Mr. Sogavare, he has said that, yes, we're going to do this, but he is scheduled to meet with the internet service providers and the top tech people because he has no idea how he's going to do this. And I got to think, you want to do your old Linode commercial here. You want a VPN that's in the U.S. that you host yourself so they can't recognize as a popular VPN provider?
Yeah, Linode is on board with the whole self VPN thing. It's one click, and you've got your own private VPN that's terminated on Linode. The traffic's encrypted, so unless your ISP is going to block all encrypted traffic, they're not going to block your traffic. Although the Chinese firewall is quite sophisticated. It's like, oh, this looks like encryption that we can't break. Let's turn it off.
I don't think the Solomon Islands have the same level of sophistication in their firewall. I think it'll be okay. Remember Libra? Libra was supposed to revolutionize the economy. It was supposed to replace all of our money and put it all in Lord Zuckerberg's coffers, and he would let us spend his digital currency in its stead. The U.S. government and the governments around the world took one look at that, and they said, if this happens, we will kill you. Not in so many words, but I think that was the intent.
We would be unhappy with your decisions.
So here we are, a year on. And what is Libra? Well, maybe it's going to launch, but it's going to be way different.
Facebook's Libra could launch in January as a way to just send money between people. Think of it more like PayPal. Don't think of it as some sort of blockchain cryptocurrency, Mark Zuckerberg cornering, small transactions becoming the micro payments gateway thing. No, I think this is just something for, one person on Facebook to send another person on Facebook some money. No big deal.
Also, it's going to be a stable coin tied to the dollar. So if you're thinking of speculating in it, there's no reason to. It won't appreciate or depreciate. Not like that exciting Bitcoin. There's nothing better than waking up and be like, "Oh, I made $3,000."
What's it at today?
Yeah, it's currently past its all-time high.
It went down for a bit.
Oh, it's back
Did
up.
It bounce?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, it may have gone back down again while we've been sitting here. I don't know. But, yeah, it cleared its all-time high. So all the people that bought then are finally like, I'm free. I can get out. I'm free.
They're not getting out, though. They're making that mistake. Yeah, I would love to see it. But I said this last time, and I didn't do it. I would love to see it go back to like 10,000.
There's a lot of people that think it's going to hit 100,000 in short order.
I've seen a lot of headlines. They're saying way more than that.
Really?
At 100,000, you got to sell it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
that'd be crazy.
It's that whole thing where it's like the tulip mania.
Yeah.
Where you're going to sell it at 100,000 and feel like an idiot when it hits 200,000. But you shouldn't feel like that.
No.
That's a fallacy of investing.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we were talking about earlier, Krista. When it comes to like Russia Today and stuff like that, Twitter, without really banning anything, is trying to shape the narrative for sure. Krista.
Oh, am I supposed to read that one? Twitter will warn you if you like misleading tweets. See, when was this published? November 23rd. Yeah, this has been around for a while.
November 23rd is a week ago.
Yeah.
But like, that's ages in internet time.
I think they had it out right before the election because of all the crazy stuff that people were posting prior to the election.
It is kind of weird, but
yeah. And but here's my problem with that. The way they label them is, this is disputed.
Yeah. What
in the mainstream news at this point could you confidently say no one has disputed?
Or what about this should not be disputed?
But who decides? Like, the dispute is always going to be there. That's the thing. It's just, what they should say is the narrative that we like disputes this. That would be a better label. Because there's always going to be a dispute. Somebody's disputing something. One thing that you can't dispute about Twitter is that people love the little check mark. Oh God, they want it. There's an entire cottage industry on trying to get these things. But a while back, it was too dramatic. And Twitter was like, you know what? We're done. We're out of the blue check business. Don't ask anymore. But if you're one of those people who desperately needs it, maybe some good news, probably not.
Twitter verification will return early next year. Don't you worry. Along with brand new rules. So it used to be that you had to upload your photo ID, which entrusting Twitter with that just doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, don't do that.
There's they gave some of the. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is who can get in there, but other influential individuals kind of gives them the ability to do whatever they want. News media accounts, that's us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does this mean we get the blue check mark?
Entertainment, that's
Is that on my
debatable.
resume?
We probably could, but that's fine.
Is that really necessary? Yeah.
I don't even want it.
I don't think I want it either.
I'm glad
I
to
never
stand
tweet that often.
as a man of the people among the unchecked populace. That's the place to be, chat. Not up there in the blue ivory tower. Ivory's not
Twitter's
blue.
just to post memes anyway. Everyone knows that.
And you could call this perhaps the twilight of the simps. A difficult time if you are a Chinese e-girl. Because it does seem like, now here's a question. It seems to me that, and then this article supports it as well, a massive amount of simp activity is from fairly young men.
Yeah, I'd say that's true.
What age do you think traditionally you would grow out of your simphood?
Based on what we've personally witnessed, it's well past their 30s.
So do you think, much like, video games being more mainstream and stuff like that, as we move forward with more and more generations, we'll get older and older simps?
Yes.
You think we'll see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it won't be that bad. But for now, they're definitely going to take a hit.
China bans spending by teens in new curbs on live streaming. What does it say? Hosts and gift givers must provide real name after accusations of abuse. Ugh.
And teens cannot donate at all anymore.
What if we could set up something like Amazon's Mechanical Turk service, where it's like, I know you can't give, but why don't you go spend an hour on Mechanical Turk and then send me the credits?
It's not even Mechanical Turk. You just stop down at the Foxconn factory and just check in under her name. Just clock in for her.
I made 12 phones for you.
Twitch does that already. Like, you watch enough ads, you get bits, and then you can give the bits to the streamer.
Or just run down to the transplant hospital. Make a little deposit.
That is funny that, Twitch basically already solved this problem, because here a lot of people that are under 18 don't have a credit card. So how can you give money to your favorite streamer? Oh, wait.
But they have digital payments over there.
Yeah.
I bet that simplifies it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question about the digital payment thing. Once we go digital payments, how do we deal with the 18 verification? Is there going to be a flag on your account?
Man, whatever the Chinese equivalent of being like a Rhodes Scholar is, it's like, oh, you've lost your Rhodes Scholarship because we went through your payment history here and we found where you gave $100 to a streamer against the rules. You've lost your scholarship.
You bought bathwater. We see it.
If there is a flag, if there's like an 18 flag, some kid is accidentally his account's gonna like get that flag turned off or turned on, and he's gonna figure it out. He's gonna be buying like booze and porn, and there's gonna be a big scandal about that.
There was a bug with Xbox forever, Microsoft Xbox, where like if you signed up like an under 13 account, you got that flag, and it just never went away. Like even 5 or 6 years later for Xbox Live, it's like, no, this account is flagged as under 13. It's like, well, I was when I set it up, but I'm not now. And there were a bunch of stuff you couldn't do, and there's just nothing you could do about it.
We'll see. We'll see if these e-girls can adapt and overcome.
What do we got coming tomorrow?
I don't remember.
Another day of fresh hell.
Business and Robot.
Woo!
I think.
And snow here in Kentucky.
I know. Is it supposed to snow again?
Yeah, it's supposed to snow this afternoon. There's like a line coming in right now.
Yeah.
Earliest snow we've had in years, chat. The prophecy was true. The woolly worms foretold this.
Yeah, the worms.
Yeah.
Scary.
And your worm was solid black, right?
Solid black.
So a continuation of rough winter weather here, chat.
You heard it here first. You didn't think you were going to get a weather report.
That's not true, Krista. They didn't hear it here first. They heard it from the worm. Don't take credit.
If they had woolly worms in their area, absolutely.
Although their woolly worms wouldn't be the same forecast, so
it's true.
Particularly true.
100% true.
All right, well, Krista, why don't you give us a ominous woolly worm goodbye?
Goodbye. It's like they're chanting.
At some point, the Discord went wrong.
It did. Yeah. I had to disconnect and reconnect.
Krista, you've poisoned the video.
I had to because you guys, I was talking and you weren't responding, and you guys were frozen for me.
When did that happen?
Like the last 3 stories, I think.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
that's not too bad.
Yeah.
It'll be fixed for Tuesday.
Yeah, it was like it just froze, and I was like, hello? And no one was answering, so I was like, I don't know what to do, so I just reconnected.
Don't make me set up Rosie with dual monitors so that we can drag the thing over from one to the other and just monitor all the things.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Bye.